Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We have our last Sanctioned game here on Track 1. I am Tara Armoff.
I am Layla Smackdown.
And we have some MRDA action about to happen.
If we are up against anything like the last MRDA bout we watched, which just happened a few minutes ago, my heart rate has not come down from it. We had a 2-point differential between the first and third place teams, the St. Louis Gatekeepers versus the Bridgetown Menace. And it was down to the wire. It was tie score with 6 seconds left on the clock. Went down to that 2-point game, and I have a feeling the Shock Exchange and the Murder are going to bring just the same level of intensity to track number 1 today.
That's right. Vancouver Murder, obviously from Vancouver, ranked number 6. I'm going to do a quick rundown of their roster. 00 Bennett, 100 Scott Slamilton, 110 Mr. Testosterone, 111 Payne Thretzky, number 12 Walker, 17 Zimmer, 1936 Harrison Ford, 22 Nelson, 333 Svensson, 4 Stand Decide, 53 Demolition Herbie? Oh my goodness. All right, it's been a long day. 56 Iron Fist, 68 Kremley Budakrub, and number 8 Lodge.
It's already been a long day and a longer weekend. Gearing up the 8th place MRDI ranked New York Shock Exchange, number 0, Sammy Dangerfield, number 10, Wolverine, number 125, Malcolm Sex, 132, Ezra Pound, 14, Marlon Brando, 164, Carl LeFeu, 1983, I Don't Care Bear, 275, I Am Havoc, 35, Be Sure's, 42, Captain Jeffrey, number 5, Poblex, 87, Stankus, number 9, Kenbo Slice, and number 929, David Blockett.
Both teams on the track, and while we're waiting for the lineups, Vancouver this weekend, they went up against Portland, Oregon's Bridgetown Menace. Lost to them 273-108, but then they turned around, played the Victorian men's team, and beat them 274-80, and action is going on. We have Mr. Testosterone jamming for Vancouver in the red and black, and a mystery jammer for the New York Stock Exchange because there is I Am Havoc.
He is dug down so deep, he is just emerging from that pack like out of the womb. Lead jammer, I Am Havoc, New York Shock Exchange.
Mr. Testosterone out of the pack on his initial pass for the Murder. Murder setting up a 3-wall in front. Shock Exchange coming up, trying to break it up as Havoc tries to get through. Points are scored. 3 points.
3 points picked up. Real smart call off by I Am Havoc. Realized that there was barely any headway to be made. Might as well save your energy and preserve your points where you can get them.
Absolutely. And we said what Vancouver's scores were this weekend. New York played Chinook, the Reservoir Dogs, and beat them 439-36. And then went up against Bridgetown and got beat by Bridgetown 237-53. So this is going to be interesting to see how these two teams do with that triangulation. We have Lodge, number 8, out and lead for the Vancouver Murder.
Kenbo Slice jams for New York Shock Exchange. Kenbo was one of the top scorers in yesterday's game against Bridgetown.
Lodge through, picking up 4 points. Yes, 4 points. So we have a 4-3 game in favor of Vancouver. So I guess that's our official first lead change.
It definitely is. If you are actually engaging in the game at home for lead changes, hopefully it's with nice mimosa. It's like a Sunday brunch game. I feel like it should be midnight based on the level of intensity already achieved today, but
what are you going to do? Stankus jamming for the New York Shock Exchange. Big jump by Mr. Testosterone to get out and get lead for the Murder. Number 22 going flying. Nelson on the Murder. Oh, Nelson taking out Stankus there on the outside.
Mr. Testosterone has so much speed coming around that apex. Easily shrugging off a last-ditch effort by Be Sure's.
Watching Mr. Testosterone yesterday during the game that they played against the Victorian Men's League was just phenomenal. He had a really good game, took a couple of hard hits, had a really hard fall, but got up, kept skating because that's what he's here for. Number 164 on their way to the penalty box for the Shock Exchange. That is Carlefou. Oh, and we missed a power jam for Vancouver. So this is going to be a power start going into this next jam for Vancouver. Vancouver pulling ahead 14 to New York's 3.
We might have missed it, but luckily Mr. Testosterone was well aware of the control he had. Managed to pick up double fist worth of points. Vancouver sitting with 14 points ahead of Shock Exchange's 3.
At least someone's paying attention. Scott Slamilton jamming for the first time today for the Murder. And Stankus back on the track, coming up against the murderous wall of 4, going into the apex between turns 1 and 2. Stankus trying to get around Nelson and Walker. I kind of got it right. All right.
A slender pack of Malcolm Sex and Wolverine did a little bit of containment of Scott Slamilton.
Slamilton coming around for a scoring pass. New York building a wall in the back on the far straightaway.
Murder wasting no time on crashing the boards, gently setting up a pick, impeding the paths of any of the blockers, and that jam is called off.
Stankus unable to score in that jam. Vancouver pulling ahead 16 to 3. 25 minutes, 25 seconds in the first period.
Hopefully it was the opposite of his prom night experiences.
Oh my goodness.
Like I said, I'm rolling with like a midnight mentality, so.
Well, it's midnight somewhere. Someone's watching at midnight, so it'll fit in just fine. Lodge jamming against I Am Havoc. Lodge for the Murder, getting out, getting lead, coming out of turn 2. Havoc trying to get around number 22, Nelson. Oh, and then getting knocked around by Svensson. Svensson taking him to the ground, resetting in front of him, and just having him just bounce off of him a few more times.
That was like a sad slow motion delivery. Svensson just catching him on his hip, dragging him along, and then disposing of him.
And he disposes of himself into the penalty box. So Murder is down in the pack. Oh, big hit on Lodge.
That was B. Schurz that kind of clutched his hands and being like, ooh, did I do that? Yes, you did. You know what you did, but it's okay because you did it before the 4th whistle blew. So you're cool.
That's right. He is going back to the bench. No penalty on that. Vancouver increasing their lead to 20. Shock Exchange stalled at 3. Zimmer on the jammer line for the Murder.
Increasing their lead in points, but decreasing their presence on the track. We have Shock Exchange with a slight blocker advantage.
And they have Kembo Slice on the jammer line. Even though there's only 2 blockers for Murder right now, Kembo Slice having a heck of a time getting through. Oh! Barely stepped out of bounds. Has to reset behind the jammer line.
You know, that's the greatest switch for me when I'm watching the men's bouts, is realizing that even with 2 on the track, they still managed to take up the entire track. Kembo Slice is out. Lead jammer, Shock Exchange.
Scott Slamilton going to the penalty box for the Murder. He did foul out of yesterday's game against Victoria, so hopefully he'll learn his lesson. Oh, Svensson putting a smackdown on Kembo Slice as he was just getting up. And number 4 for the Murder, stand aside, making his way to the penalty box. It's really tough to see these calls. Oh, someone lost their helmet cover.
Wardrobe malfunction.
Zimmer picking it back up. It just popped off his helmet, apparently.
Oh, little friend high five from opposing teammates. That's awesome. There's been a lot of class and respect and adoration shown on both sides of the aisle with all of the MRDA games that I've seen so far.
Big jam for New York Shock Exchange, picking up 13? They're now up to, the scoreboard on one is different from the scoreboard from the other. Okay, yes, 14-point jam, so they're now up to 17 points. Vancouver Murder at 23. 22 minutes, 15 seconds on the first period clock.
Mr. Testosterone, where's the star for Vancouver going up against Stankus for the Shock Exchange?
Mr. Testosterone, definitely a go-to jammer for the murder. He has been incredible all weekend long. He gets taken down by the jammer line, gets reset back behind the tripod that the Shock Exchange is setting up in the back, and they are quickly catching up to the front tripod that the murder is working in turn one.
Murder's blockers are doing a fantastic job of covering the line from one side to the other. With the force that a lot of these jammers have, you can't give them an inch, otherwise they will take that mile.
Especially, like, it just takes a crack in the wall, and they're like cockroaches. They just make their way through.
They smell the sweets on the other side.
Oh, Mr. Testosterone getting a big hit from number 35, B Shirts.
Delivered and dumped to the inside. You've got to see all those hits through to have any major impact. They also are so quick to recover. As hard as they go down, they bounce right back up again. They're like Weebles.
It's almost like they're big, like the juniors are like that too, where they bounce back up so fast. That's what these guys are like.
It's because their bones haven't filled in completely. They're like baby birds. It's still really hollow. Their pain receptors haven't developed quickly yet. They don't know to feel pain. They'll learn.
They didn't learn physics in school. They don't know. Both jammers not finding any daylight whatsoever. Mr. Testosterone casually making his way back onto the track after getting drawn back yet again. And that tripod trying to force him out as he jukes and jives to each side, trying to find daylight.
Sunday jammers, Sunday jamming. What's the rush? Why expend the energy? It is already the third day.
We finally have a lead jammer with Stankus, and he gets that right at the end of the 2 minutes. That was 2 minutes of pure torture for those jammers. Scoreless jam. So the score remains 17 points for the Shock Exchange, 23 for Vancouver. We have an official timeout being called right now. And I'm not surprised that there is any kind of timeout being called right now after all of that happening so quickly.
Absolutely. Vancouver did have a bit of an early lead ahead, and now with it being narrowed to only 6 points, I mean, breaking a team's momentum is just as good a reason to call a timeout as any that I can think of.
Kudos and thanks to the Big O Tech team for making the magic happen behind the scenes all weekend long. Thank you so much for making us sound good and seem like we know what we're talking about. Also want to give thanks to the WFTDA for their support to the Big O. As well as, I like talking about the door crew on the broadcast. Because, you know, people would think that you would talk about the door crew in-house. No, I want to talk about them on the broadcast because they've been rad all weekend long, getting everyone in and out and keeping it orderly and keeping it organized. So thank you, door crew, for killing it.
And also so friendly. Everyone that I've encountered that is volunteering with this tournament weekend is so happy to be here. So if we're painting the most enticing image for the Big O, it's for reals, and we hope to see you at the Big O 2018.
That's right. We are not lying about how awesome this tournament has been all weekend, and it's consistently awesome. Now we're back to the action. Lodge jamming for Vancouver against Sammy Dangerfield. First time as jammer in this game.
Sammy Dangerfield, a passionate jammer, passionate dresser, and passionately finding his way to the penalty box for a forearm infraction.
That is the second power jam opportunity being given to the murder in this game. Lodge getting drawn all the way back behind the jammer line.
Vancouver has also been dominating as far as lead jammer so far, so they know what to do with a little bit of extra control. Poblex escorting to the outside, swinging to the in.
Yeah, he is matching Lodge step for step until right then when I say something. And then number 35.
Be Sure's
comes in and says, yeah, you're not going to get anything. Sammy Dangerfield back on the track, going down and going right back to the box. I think for a low block. So that is power jam opportunity number 3 for Vancouver in the second power jam in this jam.
I think it was Slamilton that caught just a little piece of Sammy Dangerfield, which then caused the low block.
Everyone making their way around the track. Now, Lodge has not gotten out to score any points, I don't think. Whistles being blown, track gut being called on one of the Shock Exchange. That is B-Shirts.
And B-Shirts definitely has been proving himself all weekend as well as a destroyer of walls. He's a bit of a weatherman trying to clean up the little vortexes and tornadoes that are created. So this might be a nice opportunity for Vancouver, but Poblex is just holding that down.
Scoreless jam. Wow, another 2 minutes of just hard work, and it was pointless. Get it? Pointless.
I hear what you did there. And now I'll disparage myself. It was like my prom night. So
Zimmer on the jammer line for the murder, and cannot see who is jamming for the Shock Exchange. And I know that the Shock Exchange has been wanting to give shout-outs to Jonathan R. all weekend long because he, of course, is not here.
Yeah, where's he at?
He is back home recovering from an injury, I believe, that he got at Champs.
Oh, please get well soon.
So, hi, Jonathan R. from the Shock Exchange. And Mystery Jammer is number 275, I Am Havoc, gets recycled back.
Just when I Am Havoc found his way out of turn one, having to go all the way again and then causing a little bit of a pileup in the process. And Zimmer ekes around, but it is not the lead jammer.
All of the whistles getting blown. So apparently Havoc, even second out of the pack, he did get lead and said, I'm just going to call this. So we have our, third scoreless jam in a row so far. My goodness.
It's exciting for us watching from the air-conditioned comfort of wherever we're watching from, but so frustrating. They're working so hard out there.
Big O would like to thank more of the vendors that have been on site this weekend. Hit This, Derby Gear, Left Turn Clothing, Living Colored Duct Tape, Motoskates, Pivot Star, Radar Wheels, Rydell, Roller Derby Athletes, and the S1 Helmet Company. Thank you all for showing up and having a booth here. It's been awesome to peruse what is available in roller derby land in person. It's like seeing things online just isn't the same as seeing it in person.
Glitter and sparkle does not translate in photo.
No, it absolutely doesn't. So it's fantastic to be able to check out all of the fun stuff. And especially, I can't imagine ordering skates totally online without,
trying on the boot and everything. That seems insane to me.
And so I'm really thankful that the skate companies are here so that you can actually look at what you want to buy and see if they actually work for you. So thank you very much, vendors. We are back to game action. Mr. Testosterone versus Kenbo Slice.
Both the top scoring jammers so far for today's game. Mr. Testosterone responsible for 10 of those points to Kenbo's 14.
Mr. Testosterone trying to get around. He has one guy to beat. That is Malcolm Sex. He sends him flying. He gets lead for the Vancouver murder.
Gingerbeard on gingerbeard crime is nothing to joke about.
Yeah, there's a lot of ginger on that track. Mr. T coming around for a scoring pass, trying to get around a back tripod of Shock Exchange players. He gets knocked to the outside, getting recycled back. In the meantime, Kenbo Slice also getting recycled back behind the pivot line himself, working on his initial pass, I believe.
Wolverine doing a great job working those edges and just doing a little hand grenade offense for Kenbo Slice.
Vancouver keeping that front wall together, not affording Kenbo Slice an inch of room, forcing him to step out and having to step back in behind him. Mr. Testosterone using every inch of that track, trying to find ground, and finds himself getting recycled back himself.
I don't know if Poblex has a solid bone within his spine, because that swivel he just did, it was like the difference between old suitcases and new suitcases where those rolly wheels and you can just drag them over anything. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's how his hips work. I don't understand whatever yoga or Pilates or chiropractic work he's involved with.
I wish he'd share.
Please do. Don't be selfish.
Carl LeFou jamming for the Shock Exchange. Scott Slamilton jamming for the Vancouver Murder. LeFou trying to get around number 17, Zimmer. He makes it out. He gets lead for the Shock Exchange.
And I think that was Carl LeFou's first time jamming today. 1 for 1. That is super successful. Going to go for some points now.
Slamilton out of the pack as well on his initial pass, trying to catch up to the pack. Pack is flying into turn 3. The jam is called off after 3 points being scored by LeFou, breaking that points drought that has been going on for both teams.
I'm thirsty.
So thirsty. Yeah, you guys aren't in California. There no droughts for you, okay? Let's cut that out. Shock Exchange putting points on the board. They're now up to 20 to Vancouver's 28. Just under 14 minutes left in the first period. And we hear whistles being blown. We have another timeout. This one is being called by the Vancouver Murder. So while we take a breather, want to remind you that we have our little social medias that you can communicate with us if you so care to. And if I just find the information, that would be handy.
If you're into that sort of thing, if you're like at home and you're like, I feel so apart from the action, I need to interact. Tara, how can they interact?
On the Twitters, they can use the hashtag BigO2017. And if you are having a pet viewing party, I love the pets in the derbies. The derby pets are the best. Hashtag Big O Cats for the cat fans out there, which is all of the internet. And, of course, if you have a doggo, we have hashtag Big O Dogs.
Doggo. What do you do if you have both? Is there like a greater and or less than, like default goes to the dog if there's a dog in the picture? Maybe. Or is it like the cat tarnishes things with their sassiness? And I love cats, don't get me wrong. But do you know what I mean? It's like not all of us are on one camp versus the other.
Well, I'm concerned about all of the pets that are excluded. What about all the pets that aren't cats and dogs? What about that, Big O?
Well, then I say, if you're a bird person, tell me hashtag why. I'm not judging. I'm looking for your comments on your education. Sell me on this.
Back at the game, Lodge jamming for Murder, but it's I Am Havoc. Has one to beat, has Malcolm Sex assist him out. He does get lead for the Shock Exchange. Lodge goes flying into the infield, having to reset behind number 35, that is B Shirts.
Zimmer did a great job of preempting them from dropping back any further and was also in a position to receive the jammer at just the right time. It was a great time to emerge from the penalty box.
Lodge has taken the star cover off the helmet, doing a little star stash on that initial pass. Still not able to get around that tripod in the back that Shock Exchange has set up in turn 3.
I Am Havoc reabsorbed back to the intro of that turn, having to go it again. Amazing little hop, skip, and jump by Walker to meet the jammer.
And we do have a star pass on the Murder side. Zimmer has accepted the star, and he was able to pick up a point. But Shock Exchange coming out ahead points-wise. They pick up 4, so they are now up to 25. Vancouver 29. So Shock Exchange closing that gap very quickly.
Only 4 points separating the 6th and 8th place teams.
Just over 12 minutes in the first half of the game.
And if this game is anything like the last one, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it to my next game.
Yes, we can't. No assumptions are going to be made as to who will win this because the past couple of games that we have seen here at the Big O have been very close and very awesome, and I expect nothing less from the Shock Exchange and the Murder. Mr. Testosterone versus Kembo Slice. Kembo Slice being pushed to the outside. Oh, Kembo Slice out and lead for the Shock Exchange. Mr. T coming through on the inside. manages to get through Sammy Dangerfield. Thought he was going to try something, but no.
Sammy Dangerfield able to set a really quick, smart pick, easily allowing Kenbo Slice around to pick up all 4 of those points in that pass.
Shock Exchange picking up the pace. No points scored in that jam. Very, very defensive game so far. Oh, no, I was wrong. We have a tie game right now.
We have a tie game. I think there were some late addition points within that last jam. Tie game. But again, as we were discussing earlier in the lounge, the best part about roller derby is you will never see a game end with a tie. If everyone's adding things up correctly, it will never end that way.
So each team going into this jam with 29 points. Boudicca, first time on the jammer line for the Murder, going up against Carl LeFou for the Shock Exchange. Boudicca, another powerhouse for the Murder, trying to make way through, trying to get around Malcolm Sex in the middle of the pack. Meanwhile, Carl LeFou getting recycled to the back behind number 56, Iron Fist.
That was a very convenient pick that was set against Malcolm Sex because Malcolm Sex just swung his backside around to join his defensive wall, and it is Carl LeFou out. Lead jammer, he is 2 for 2 for lead jammer.
Boudicca shooting out of the front of the pack on the initial pass, trying to catch up, but Carl LeFou going through, picking up points, calling it off. I think LeFou only picks up 3.
Looks like actually
that was 2. 2-1 jam in favor of the Shock Exchange. We now have a lead change, a second lead change of the game, as the Shock Exchange pull ahead by 1 whole point.
I hear the mimosa glasses toasting in my mind. Or it's just wishful thinking. I don't know. Either or.
It could be both.
Make it a reality out there.
Scott Slamilton jamming for the Murder. I Am Havoc jamming for the Shock Exchange. Slamilton coming through backwards, turning back around, getting out and getting lead for the Vancouver Murder. Excellent work, speeding up that pack and getting out of there.
It is a power jam for Scott Slamilton. It looks like it was illegal engagement with his head.
That's no bueno. So Havoc is sitting in the box, but now Slamilton that's even taking a seat in the penalty box. So now this is the first power jam opportunity for New York.
It is not going to last too long, though, as I Am Havoc was not in the penalty box very long. So Scott Slamilton just gets to set his laser focus on making up a little bit of track length.
Oh, my gosh. Huge hit by number 17, Zimmer, on Havoc, sending him down. And now Murder is just standing over Havoc, just daring him to get back up so they can smack him down again.
They were basically taking their turns at that. Walker got a really nice hit in also. There's only so much that can be done from a dead standstill.
Oh, nice maintained by Havoc. Through on the initial pass. Slamilton through for a scoring pass for the Murder.
I'm watching a lot of people watching the aftermaths of their hit. Like, ooh, are you going out? Or are you about to tip over? I like you to just kind of finish the job. Set Spike for yourself.
Exactly.
Look, another sports reference. Sports.
We like sportses. I like this sportses. Slamilton coming through for another scoring pass. Havoc on a scoring pass as well. Bennett coming out of the penalty box for the Murder. Oh, coming in. Big hit on Malcolm Sex. Slamilton coming back, having to reset behind the wall on turn 3. Walker coming out of the penalty box, casually coming back. And since it was close to the end of the jam.
And it felt that way. I Am Havoc just dropping a shoulder, and he and Zimmer just locked sluggishly. It was like they were moving a boulder uphill.
In the snow, barefoot, both ways.
Just like my prom night. Sorry, I'll stop. Sorry.
Shock Exchange with 35 points. The Murder with 42. Just under 7 minutes left in the first period. And we have a timeout being called. An official timeout.
It's going to be actually a Shock Exchange timeout. Oh, no, just kidding. You're right.
LOL.
You're right about everything. Lols.
Girls on Track wants to keep girls in the game by supporting junior roller derby programs. Visit their table in the vendor area to learn how you can be part of the movement. Or if you're not here in Eugene, Oregon, you can visit them online at girlsontrackfoundation.org. Not sure what to get your favorite skater? With over 70 colors and patterns to choose from, there is something for everyone with Bruised Skate News, bruisedsn.com.
So some cursory stats to report to you. Shock Exchange has just a couple more trips to the penalty box in Vancouver. By my very rough math, my abacus is not handy. It looks like it's about 15 points to about 11 trips by Vancouver. And it's a really even split as far as who has had lead jammer. By my rough counts, it's about 7 each.
Wow.
So that's so fair.
Yeah.
Fair and balanced. And you can see it in the score. And I mean, you can see it in the rankings. They're so close to each other. So,
yes, and I have 5 jammer penalties altogether from everyone so far.
that's tidy. That's a clean house. And again, especially this late in the weekend, I mean, they're pretty fresh. I think that neither team has had more than one bout per day.
Right.
So they have the opportunity to go back and, ice their aching bones and write in their journals and, hug it out and whatnot. But it's really brutal. It's really aggressive. And a lot of times at this late in a tournament, you really kind of see the chippiness come out much earlier in the game. So the infrequent trips to the penalty box, both blockers and jammers, I'd say is really commendable and proof of how hard they've been training together.
Yes, very nice work so far from these teams. And, again, just under 7 minutes in the first quarter. Low-scoring game. Just fantastic work so far in this game. Super stoked about that.
And again, it's a true testament to the really tight defense. I mean, even when some of the teams were getting into penalty issue, when you had just 2 blockers on the track, they were digging down so deep, spreading out, saying super strong and sturdy, like little igloos or something. And I mean, as we saw, there were at least 2 pointless jams, and that's going to have a huge impact. Again, only 16 jams in this first half so far. We have just under 7 minutes left at this bout, and it looks like we are whistled back to the action.
Cambo Slice on the jammer line for the Shock Exchange going up against Mr. Testosterone for the Murder. Cambo Slice juking and jiving back and forth, trying to find daylight. Mr. Testosterone taking that outside line, getting forced out. Now has to recycle back behind the jammer line. Cambo Slice has 3 to beat in the front. Oh, Mr. Testosterone takes some friendly fire from Zimmer, but he still gets out, but he's not lead. That does go to Cambo Slice.
I think that if that subtle screen hadn't happened, Mr. Testosterone would have had just a step ahead. It was at a very awkward part of the apex. How he managed to shrug it off at all is beyond me. Only 1 point picked up by Shock Exchange on that pass.
That's right. That's because Shock Exchange got a goat in the back. I think that was a Zimmer in the back. And so as soon as Slice passed him, Testosterone was closing in quickly, and there were Shock Exchange skaters back there. It's like better to just call it off, even with 1 point. So 36 for the Shock Exchange, 42 for the Murder. Lodge and LeFou on the jammer line for the respective teams. LeFou juking and jiving back and forth, going one way then the other, but the Murder defense just moving right along, matching move for move.
Pablex once again showing that Matrix-like movements, delivering Lodge to that outside and now to the in. And they all go backwards again.
That's right. LeFou, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, has to reset behind. Now way out in front. Look how far out the 2 Murder defenders were out of play. They have to let LeFou go. LeFou is lead. Lodge taking off the star cover.
It did take him about 40 seconds to get that. And usually, again, at this level, once you start to see those blockers get really strung out, that's what a jammer with good foot speed wants to see. It just becomes kind of like an obstacle course. But these guys are just getting so big and so sturdy that it gives them an opportunity to recycle to the front and play more defense for each other.
I'm trying to see if there is a star pass being passed to Slamilton.
It's not as easy to see anymore. They're so much more subtle about kind of like keeping it on the down low, just bunching up in their hands like they're about to do a magic trick and like pull a whole rabbit out of a hat. But
that's part of one of the rule changes this season is that you have to have that cover. Even if you do a stash, it has to be visible somewhere. Yeah. So you can't do the magic handkerchief trick.
No Pop Warner exploitation, shoving the football under your jersey and then emerging on the other side.
That's right.
Or MASH style.
LeFou threw for a scoring pass. That's 5 points for the New York Stock Exchange. We have another lead change going on right now.
LeFou shrugging off that little love tap right in the apex. Again, kind of taking that little jiu-jitsu style momentum and rolling away. 5 points picked up on that pass. That is the biggest jam we've seen so far in this game. 15 points put up by LeFou. New York Stock Exchange sitting with the lead, 51 to Vancouver's 42.
3.5 minutes left in the first period. We see Zimmer on the jammer line for the Vancouver Murder. I am Havoc skating for the Stock Exchange. All I see is Svensson being the brace for the Murder wall because Svensson is about 8 feet taller than everybody else on the track right now, it seems.
Svensson is a pack.
Yes. Svensson are their own pack.
They're not actually fielding additional players. Svensson is allowed to play with others, and Zimmer is allowed to be lead jammer for Vancouver Murder.
So we were talking about Svensson going to the penalty box, I think for, oh crap, I already forgot what the call was.
You know what? It turns out there wasn't a call. He's being waved off.
Oh, well, there you go.
He was just taking a little
nap.
breather.
Havoc threw on the initial pass with a star stash, putting the helmet cover back on.
Payne Thretzky responsible for that kind of little correction of, no, you will put that cap back on.
But you put that on right now.
But Ma!
46 points for Vancouver, 51 for New York. Mr. Testosterone out on the jammer line for the Murder. Sammy Dangerfield for the Stock Exchange.
Sammy Dangerfield, the first to catch a little bit of light, easily surfs around Hamilton, met by Walker, shrugs it off. Lead jammer Stock Exchange.
Walker was just a little too forward, catching with the shoulder, but not with the body. And so Dangerfield already scoring, managing to stay in bounds along that outside boundary. Now getting swarmed by Murder's defense.
Malcolm Sucks trying to play a little bit of offense, but realizing with that kind of slow play, he was just getting in the way of Sammy Dangerfield. Sammy Dangerfield waving at the fans, blowing kisses at the fans, scoring 5 points in the process.
Maul and Brando doing some excellent offense work as well. Mr. Testosterone sitting in the penalty box, so this is a power jam opportunity for the Stock Exchange. Again, I keep missing some of these calls. Track. No pass, no penalty. I thought that was a track cut was being called, but no, it's a no pass, no penalty.
And I want to give a lot of credit to the Stock Exchange. We're really seeing them kind of harnessing the speed with which they're crashing the boards and playing offense and their jammers are approaching. I think a few times earlier on in the half, we were seeing a sort of preemptive offense, which then just brought the pack up to such an untenable speed for the jammer to catch any points. And we've really seen them correct it in this jam especially.
Mr. T doing the star stash, getting out, putting the star cover back on the helmet, but Dangerfield saying, well, I'm just going to score another point and call it off before I'm going to give you a chance. And that puts the Stock Exchange ahead by 20 points, 66 to 46. We have less than a minute left. We have less than 30 seconds left. So I don't know if there will be enough time for one last jam unless someone calls a timeout. Maybe there's just enough time. I don't know.
Looks like
there
is.
Like
we're going to give it a go. And you know, even if you're not watching all the action, I know that this is a really exciting game because it's just flown by already. I can't believe we're already in the last jam of this first half. Poblex wears the star for New York Shock Exchange.
Oh, big hit by number 22, Nelson. Nelson goes down. Poblex stays in, gets out, and gets lead for the Shock Exchange.
Got up with a gallop nonetheless and is going to have plenty of time to be patient and just kind of try and forge his pass, as Zimmer has not even emerged on the initial pass. Does have to go it again.
Zimmer doing the star stash with the helmet cover in hand.
Number 22, Nelson, is doing a great job kind of conducting where he wanted his fellow blockers to go, but Poblex finally managed to find an answer and picking up another 5 points.
Star pass on the Vancouver Murder side. I think this is the fourth one that they have done so far in this half.
Pivot Kenbo slice managed to catch a little chip of Walker dropping to the inside.
And nice work by Walker. Walker does pick up some points for Vancouver. So going into the half, Vancouver with 50, New York with 75. We may have if things keep going in the second half, we may have another rankings upset.
I love upsets.
I really do, too.
In sports, not in real life, but like in sports. I mean, just kidding. Sports are real life.
Oh, just when we thought it was safe to go to half. Well, they're going to do an official review, and intermission is going. All right, we're going to. I don't know.
We're gonna leak noise, and you're gonna listen. And if you don't like it, you can hashtag.
You know what? Actually, let's go to break.
Okay.
And we will find out what this official review is after the intermission. So we will be back maybe within 10 minutes.
10-ish. Don't go far.
Yes. All right. Bye.
And welcome back to this super exciting MRDA bout. We have Vancouver Murder ranked 6th facing off against the New York Shock Exchange ranked 8th. New York Shock Exchange with 75 points to Vancouver Murder's 50. Where we last left our heroes, we were in an official timeout and we were checking to see. Now, Tara, where were we with that timeout?
So, at the very end of the first half, we saw that official review being called, and it was the Shock Exchange asking for a blocking with the head penalty on the Murder's jammer in that last jam. And guess what?
Tell me.
Shock Exchange won that official review.
What?
Yeah, so that means that they're going to start out this half with a power start.
So that's actually the second time that call has been made in this game. And we were actually just talking off microphone that I'm frankly surprised that with a penalty that exists like that we don't actually see it more often, with how digging down deep these jammers have to get, dropping their shoulders and then just kind of like sliding down the wall. But it's happening today. It's happened twice so far, which means that the Shock Exchange will start in a power jam.
So did you already go through stats?
Oh my gosh, I completely, no, I didn't even talk about stats. Let's talk about stats. So, Some stats. Top scorers for Vancouver, Mr. Testosterone, 15 points put up. He's only made one trip to the penalty box. Slamilton scored 14 points, 2 trips to the penalty box. And moving over to the Shock Exchange side, Carl LeFou is the top scorer with 20 points, 2 trips to the penalty box. And Kenbo has scored 19 points and not visited the penalty box once.
Speaking of Carl LeFou, he is the jammer for the Shock Exchange that is out and lead. Zimmer, the jammer who got the blocking with the head penalty in that last jam, sitting in the penalty box, still sitting in the penalty box. LeFou through and scoring.
Little attempt at some shepherding of Payne Threatsky, but he busted through that wall of white, only to join his fellow murder defenseman.
Zimmer on the track, star in hand, not on helmet. I think now we see Mr. Testosterone out there as a pivot, so I would not be surprised if we see a star pass as LeFou is through for another scoring pass for the Shock Exchange, opening up that lead that they have established.
Pivot Be Sure is shaking his head saying, this line is not for you. And we do have Carl LeFou out once more. 5 points picked up. Mr. Testosterone staring down Carl LeFou after that star pass, kind of making him aware of like, did you see what just happened there, buddy? And he said, I guess I better call off. So he did.
So there. And that was the 5th star pass that the Murder have utilized in this game so far. They will use it if they have to. Sometimes they need it, sometimes they don't.
They've been using it successfully as well. Multiple occasions those stars passes have resulted in points put up on the board.
That's right. When a team is quick enough with that, it's actually useful. It's usually used as like a last-ditch effort, but I like it more as a second-ditch effort that the Murder is using.
Them ditches getting dug, though. And we have Lodge wearing the star forced out. Iron Fist is heading to the penalty box. Lodge is lead jammer, but forced to go all the way again, playing a little bit of defense, and that was super successful as Kenbo Slice is sent to the penalty box on a back block call.
Yeah, I saw the no pass, no penalty that Kenbo Slice got as they made their way out of the pack on the initial pass, so they were not lead. That was an interesting move by Lodge going on the defense there. And, well, good job for creating a power jam advantage for the Murder.
That was a lot of confidence, a little bit of chutzpah, I would say, as well, and a whole lot of success because he really did just dig down deep and really bore the brunt of a whole lot of jammer in his back, which means that Vancouver is going to start in a power jam, one of the first times this has happened in a little bit, with Mr. Testosterone jamming.
B-Shirts, I Don't Care, Bear Pavlix, and Malcolm Sex, the pack that is unable to stop Mr. Testosterone from getting out and getting lead on that initial pass.
Pavlix did do a good job trying to reinforce that wall, but they weren't leaned against that line enough, and he did just step right on over it, just as he did again. Another 5 points picked up from Mr. Testosterone.
I really liked how he followed Iron Fist through, and Iron Fist kind of mimicking Mr. Testosterone in a sense, style-wise, and so I think it momentarily confuses Shock Exchange. Mr. Testosterone able to get through, and now that's his second pass through, so I think that, yes, 9 points for the Vancouver Murder. They're now up to 59 to New York Shock Exchange's 85. 26 minutes, 23 seconds in the game, and we have an official timeout already.
That was a really interesting little strategy, though, if there was anything to that, the idea of kind of like mimicking each other. And, you know, when you sort of just catch a glimpse in the periphery, if the movements are similar, you sort of like mark up on the wrong person.
Well, interesting, too, especially because Iron Fist doesn't have that gingery beard as decoy.
Just look for the beard. Set your sights on the beard.
The beard just draws you in.
It's hypnotic.
Scott Slamilton versus I Am Havoc. I Am Havoc trying to get through a 3-wall, now a 2-wall as Walker goes to the box. I think that was for a forearm or multi.
It was a forearm. Walker was digging down so deep to try and cover all of the length of the track, but in doing so kind of just rested his arm right on the jammer.
Havoc getting pulled all the way back behind the pivot line. And Slamilton sitting in the penalty box. So we have a power jam in favor of the Shock Exchange. This is the fourth power jam opportunity that they have gotten in the game.
New York Shock Exchange focusing their attention less on offense for their jammer, more on just keeping those murderers as far apart from each other as possible.
You don't want a mass murder on the track.
Clean up on track 1.
Slamilton out of the box, back on the track. Havoc seeing this, calls it off in turn 3. Is that a 0-0 jam?
Again?
Are you kidding me? That is amazing. Wow.
And again, I want to commend these two sets of teams. They're being so efficient. They're really not wasting any seconds. Like, they're just getting the points where they can, giving it the gusto to try and get the points. And if they're not finding any headway, they're just deciding this is not worth our efforts.
Whistles are blowing. We see Mr. Testosterone coming around and sitting on what the heck is going on?
All right, they might be taking the efficient jams to an extreme with that last one.
Yeah, because it's Zimmer out there on the line, so I don't know where Mr. Testosterone came from. He just appeared out of nowhere to escape back to his bench.
Wild card. New extra jammer.
Now, I was noticing that Harrison Ford, who was a jammer in the regular jammer rotation for the Murder yesterday in their game against the Victorian Men's League, I don't see him at all.
And he's
on the roster.
He's on the roster.
Like, for this game.
He's in the building. We've seen the jersey.
But he has not done anything so far. So I don't know. We don't know what happened with that. And same thing with Demolition Herbie.
Let's not discount their moral support they might be providing on the bench. Zimmer escorted out by none other than I Don't Care Bear. Finishing the job, Zimmer shrugging off the big hits. I Don't Care Bear swinging a miss up front.
Oh, my goodness. And they're doing burpees over there on the far side.
Invisible banana peel clearly on turn 3.
LeFou out and lead for the Shock Exchange. Zimmer right behind him. No points scored by Zimmer. Looking for the score update for the Shock Exchange. Is that a 0?
It's a 0.
It's another 0-0 jam. Just amazing how many scoreless jams that we've been seeing so far.
I think that happened in a very vulnerable spot on the track as far as, again, getting a little sciencey physics is concerned, because from certain perspectives, it did look like Malcolm Sex had picked someone off just in time for the approaching jammer to kind of circle around. But I think that when he exited the track, he was actually parallel to his hips. He hadn't actually successfully passed them. And then with the speed of the approaching jammer, he called it off.
And with that, let's give a shout out to some of our sponsors. Hit This Derby Gear, Derby owned and operated. Before you hit the track, Hit This. They have a store in Salem, Oregon, and you can visit them online at hitthisderbygear.com. They specialize in custom gear fitting and skate tech services. Hit This.
They've been getting their money's worth for that exclamation point also. Because you can't just say, hit this. You're like, hit this!
Hit this!
Vancouver going to try to hit Kenbo Slice, who's jamming for the Shock Exchange. Based on the beard, I'm going to go on a limb and say that is Mr. Testosterone jamming for Vancouver Murder.
That's right.
Ooh, Kenbo Slice reeling in the big fish.
And Mr. Testosterone saying, okay, you want to hang out back there? I'm going to hang out over here on the outside. When you want to actually play some derby, you let me know. Look, so both jammers still have to go through on their initial pass.
Just for funsies, he's giving a little thumbs up, hitching a ride, and then a high five activated the jammers off. Mr. Testosterone head down, charging through lead jammer, Vancouver.
Wow. Nice move by the Murder to get Mr. Testosterone out, able to take that inside line to get out cleanly. Now he's on a scoring pass. He gets by on the outside. That is 5 points for the Murder.
Awesome offense thrown by Poblex. Bennett catching the tail end of Kenbo Slice just as he was about to work his way around turn one, having to go all the way back to the jam line.
Oh, but Mr. Testosterone going to the penalty box for a back block penalty. That is power jam opportunity number 5 in this game. And now we have a big pileup of Murder on the outside in front of the penalty box. Kenbo Slice on the track. No lead jammer. This goes the full 2 minutes.
Malcolm Sachs delivering Bennett to that inside, handily handing over some points to Kenbo Slice. Walker seeing the hit all the way out, but following his own course. It is a track cut called against Kenbo Slice. This will be a power jam for Mr. Testosterone, who has just leapt, skipped, jumped out of the penalty box. Apex jump thwarted by Marlon Brando.
Wow.
Wow, indeed. That jam ended just before it looked like the threat of a track cut was going to happen. But that jam...
9 points for the Vancouver Murder, 3 points for the Shock Exchange, 68-88 in favor of the Shock Exchange. And as we've seen, Vancouver can close up that gap pretty quickly if they need to. And, well, they need to. Only if they want to win, though.
That is how it works. This is the biggest lead we've seen so far in this game. It hasn't gotten any bigger than this. Lodge is going to try and narrow that deficit. Lodge is lead jammer for Vancouver Murder.
Nice tripod set up by Shock Exchange on that inside line, forcing Lodge out. Back block being called on Lodge.
That power jam was brief. Kenbo Slice easily skated around that apex unscathed.
Slice taking that outside line. Shock Exchange trying to disrupt that front duo of Threatsky and Slamilton.
B. Schurz has some incredible awareness for when to get in, play a little bit of offense to be effective, and when to get back out and turn your attention back to defense.
I lied, that was not Slamilton. It's either Walker or Zimmer that was partnering up there. I see the ones and I assume things.
I see ones, I see red, I see effective blocking. We're allowed to be a little confused.
And now we have clockwise derby going on as everybody resets. Oh my gosh, they're resetting all the way back to the jammer line. They're almost a whole lap clockwise.
Isn't this how the toilets flush in Australia? Or I saw it on TV. It must be true. It might have been in cartoon form, but it's still true.
I read it on the internet, so it's definitely true.
If we can get a rep from VRDL to the announcer's booth to let us know and confirm for a fact.
Nice disruption by I Don't Care Bear to get Kenbo Slice through. Lodge getting recycled back.
Sammy Dangerfield throwing a monster hit just in the nick of time. But a whole handful of points put up by Lodge in the dying moments of that jam.
4 points for Lodge, 9 points for Kenbo Slice, 72 for the Vancouver Murder, 97 for the New York Shock Exchange. Just under 19 minutes left in the game.
25 points now sit between again, this is now the biggest lead difference we've seen. Okay, so question. If I Don't Care Bear were an actual Care Bear, what do you suppose the image on his belly would be?
Would it be his own face with a slash through it?
Or really like gurning, really, fiercely furrowing his brows in ways that I pay good money for my brows not to move, and just showing his bottom teeth like grrr. I don't know. Maybe a little bit of bloodshot eyes. I don't know. If you have brainstorms, you can go ahead and tweet us at Talk to WFTDA. What image would you like to see in I Don't Care Bear's belly?
I can't wait for the speculation.
That would be a great costume for contest for Shock Exchange.
Oh my gosh, that would be so much fun. Big O would like to thank Sizu Mouthguards for their support of the tournament this year. Thank you, Sizu.
The top scorers of the first half are the top scorers of the second half. Consistency is king at this bout. Mr. Testosterone holds 33 of those points for Vancouver. Kenbo Slice holds 31. But it's Carla Fu jamming for Shock Exchange, going up against Mr. Testosterone for Vancouver.
Carla Fu only 1 point behind Kenbo Slice in the highest scoring category. But look at the moves Mr. Testosterone is using to get out, get lead for the murder. LeFou now taking that outside line and meeting a tripod of murder and just getting smacked around by each of them. Mr. Testosterone passes him for that jammer point. 5 points for the murder.
Malcolm Sex and Publix having a hard time again, and there being only two of them on the track, covering that whole length. One little foot on the inside line is what a jammer wants to see. We do have a power jam. Mr. Testosterone is the only jammer on the track for murder, shrugging off a late hit from Publix, picking up 5 more points for Vancouver.
And again, because the penalty that LeFou accrued happened on the opposite side of the track from us, we didn't see the move or the call. Sorry.
Little bro side hug, Publix to Mr. Testosterone. Seriously, the camaraderie has been touching.
You say that because they're touching each other?
I mean it literally as well as figuratively. Like literally, not like the bastardized way it's been ruined.
Not the internet, literally.
For reals.
Zimmer in a power start for Vancouver. LeFou standing in the penalty box. Zimmer trying to juke to the inside, gets foiled. And LeFou on the outside gets out and gets lead for the Shock Exchange. Zimmer has, star pass from Vancouver.
Walker leapt over the backside of Bichur's. Bichur's held firm control of that inside line, but Walker just stepped over him.
Wow. Quick jam. 3 points?
It looks like 3 points.
4 points.
4 points, even better. What's better than 3 points? 4 points.
4 points for the Shock Exchange. They now break the century mark, 101 points to Vancouver's 86. A little over 16 minutes left in the game.
That lead has just been dramatically cut just within the last jam. They had a 25-point advantage, now only a 15-point advantage by the Shock Exchange. I Am Havoc giving it a go for the Shock Exchange up against Bennett. I think this is Bennett's first time jamming for Vancouver today.
Oh, Bennett jukes to the outside, gets taken out by number 5. That's Pablex. Havoc out and ready to score. Already around. It's amazing how fast these jammers get around.
Stain Decide did a great job of setting a brief pick on Bichur's, analyzing him as the biggest threat on the track at the moment.
Slamilton getting recycled to the back, and at the end of that jam, 0 for the murder.
2 points.
2 for the Shock Exchange. So murder holding steady at 86. Shock Exchange with 103. Halfway through the second period. Right? This is a crazy, crazy good game. And we have a timeout being called by the murder. This is a good time for them to reassess what's going on and see if they can staunch the bleeding, as it were, the points bleeding.
I call it, truly a tourniquet timeout. It's a kind of regroup and stay focused. I've said earlier in my announcing experiences this weekend, normally this time of the game, if not even earlier than this, sometime around the 20-minute mark of the second half, I like to call the witching hour. it's like when toddlers are up past their bedtime, I'm not tired, I'm having the most fun in the world, spinning in circles, and then you lose your footing and you hit your head against the wall, and then you're crying, and then Dad says too much laughter turns to tears. And Dad was always right about that. But seriously, the witching hour is a point in the game where the enthusiasm, when standings are at play, we kind of getting a little bit chippy, if I may. And that's when the penalties start getting a little bit more out of control. I'm surprised, again, by the self-control. The penalties have not been wild. But again, we've noticed a little bit of kind of stumbling over themselves in the last jam. Great opportunity for Murder to rein it in.
And especially just taking a look there, Walker is sitting on 6 penalties. So that may be part of the reason. And Walker's the only one with more than 3. So
Walker's been in 24 of 31 jammer.
Oh, my gosh.
He's really important.
He's really, really important. Sammy Dangerfield jamming for the Shock Exchange up against Lodge for the Murder. Sammy Dangerfield getting pushed out by Zimmer. Oh, Lodge doing a twirl through, getting met at the front by number 9, Kenbo Slice. But Slice whiffs it, so Lodge is out and lead for the Murder.
He whiffs it so hard that it took him the entire lap around by Lodge to get back onto the track. Malcolm Sex digging down deep, reinforcing that wall, but Wrecking Ball Svensson.
Oh, literally. My goodness. He has slammed down Wolverine to the floor. Wolverine's slow to get up, but he is back up. Wow. Just some of the... I don't get tired of seeing these moves where even just a simple push out of a blocker just to make them reset back is done with such force, like very definitive.
Definitive, but also like completely controlled. Because what blows my mind is how, it like defies, okay, this is all I remember of physics, like a body at motion tends to stay at motion. Thank you, Sir Isaac. And the fact that you've got these masses exerting so much force, dropping people to their knees, but then they somehow again manage to like jerk back perfectly upright. How they can whip it back, it's like I don't know how they don't give themselves personal whiplash. I don't know how the pendulum doesn't just so dramatically swing in the opposite direction. They're not overcompensating at all. It's physics defying.
Again, I don't think they studied physics. I don't think they know they can't do that. No one told them. That's it. It's absolutely insane. So while we have a team timeout being called, and it is by the New York Shock Exchange, I want to say thank you to Ninkasi Brewing. I think they had one of the after parties, on the first night. They're a proud sponsor of Emerald City Roller Derby and the Big O Tournament, so thank you, Ninkasi Brewing. And I am very curious about the Pizza Research Institute. I want to know what that's about. Can you get a PhD in pizza research?
If so, I deserve an honorary degree because I have been focusing on research of this magnitude my entire life. And it's a very controlled experiment too. It's not like I'm having one type of pizza from here and another type of pizza there. I am a traditional cheese pizza aficionado. There is nothing plain about convention. I am from New York. I know the quintessential greasy, foldable, where the grease just gently trickles down your entire arm and you don't even realize that it's happened until you've got like a puddle down around your elbow. Damn, that's good pizza. So if the Pizza Research Institute can help me, hook me up with a few extra letters at the end of my name, Layla Smackdown, PhD, Dr. Smackdown, has a smoking ring to it.
We see one of the refs coming over. I'm going to go see what's going on with that. Oh, nope, too late. Ref came over. No one tells us anything. So it's not being called as an official review, so okay.
It might have been one of those cross our T's, dot our lowercase j's. Ref Duncan is super meticulous. So they probably just want to make sure all their ducks are in a row.
No one wants untidy ducks. Back on the track, Har LeFou out and lead for the Shock Exchange. Slamilton for the Murder, getting pushed around by the pivot line, still working on his initial pass.
Be Sure's shrugging off offense attempted by Zimmer, and it is a power jam. We are seeing Scott Slamilton on his way to the penalty box for a high block.
That is the 7th power jam opportunity given to the Shock Exchange, and actually both teams have had 7 jammer penalties in the game so far.
And I just want to say, really effective timeouts used by both those teams the last round. Both times immediately after taking the timeout, they did end up with the power jam that changed the momentum. So, good job, coaches.
Good job knowing derby stuff. Carl LeFou working on a scoring pass, but Bennett there saying, no, you're not going anywhere. I like you too much.
And Bennett being gently reinforced and encouraged by Payne Threatsky.
And now Walker.
Yep, joined by Walker. A vulnerability in the wall was breached. Carl LeFou around for another handful of points.
Now that was interesting. As Slamilton was coming back on the track, he was on the outside, and Zimmer as the pivot. Nice, well-timed hit and yelling. So it's like yelling and distraction and hitting all at the same time to get Slamilton out, but now Slamilton getting recycled back. So
who says men aren't capable of multitasking? Clearly, someone that's never watched a derby bout.
And they certainly haven't seen this game. Of course, this game hasn't finished yet, so of course not. Anyway, I'm getting punchy as the day goes on.
Maybe not on the track, but we behind the microphone have definitely reached the witching hour.
Very much so.
Too much laughter might turn to tears, but not if Tara and I have anything to say about it. We're going to finish this with a smile and with a bang. We still have plenty of time in this game, just over 11 minutes left on the clock. New York Shock Exchange holding the most decisive lead so far, 120 points to Vancouver Murder's 90.
Wow. Wide open outside lane left for Mr. Testosterone. He takes full advantage. I Am Havoc closing in quick. Mr. Testosterone deflecting hits. Oh, coming on the back of Malcolm Sex. Malcolm Sex able to get the back blocking penalty pulled on Mr. Testosterone. We now have a power jam advantage for the Shock Exchange.
And he was pretty stoked about it. Did his own little personal kind of Mr. Kool-Aid. Oh, yeah. Power jam for the Shock Exchange. I Am Havoc had a lot of point success in the first half. Malcolm Sex trying not to get in the way of the downed skaters.
Havoc through, picking up the points.
Payne Threatsky not thrilled with that assessment of a no pass, no penalty, but guess what? He's not wearing the right type of shirt to make that decision definitively.
Yeah, you can't play and ref at the same time, dude. Mr. Testosterone back on the track, getting thrown down, coming out of turn 4 on the outside.
That was Wolverine that neatly delivered and dumped him to that outside.
I Am Havoc getting recycled back to the jammer line by number 4, Stand Aside.
Stand Aside, pass him off to Bennett, reinforced by Payne Threatsky. Malcolm Sex just trying to destroy that wall. Mr. Testosterone unable to find his way around the business end of Wolverine, who is now joined by B. Schurz and Pavlek, some of the most offensive defenders of the game so far.
Wow. Now this is interesting. Havoc still working on getting out of the pack, and the grind was getting to him, and he didn't see the opening that Wolverine came up with on that outside line on the outside apex of turns 1 and 2, and just let time expire. It doesn't matter. New York Stock Exchange still in the lead, 133-94 for the Vancouver Murder. We have about 8.5 minutes left on the clock.
I'm almost at a loss for words,
Almost.
But that would be too out of character. I know myself too well for that. We do have a multiplayer block being called. Sammy Dangerfield not thrilled with that call, but obligingly will go to the box.
Oh, nice last second move by Zimmer, forcing a reset by Kembo Slice.
That really was. Kembo Slice was all the way out of turn one, having to go it again.
Lodge in the back. Oh, barely staying in bounds, getting around B. Schurz. But he is lead for the Murder.
A spread out and slender shock exchange pack, bracing to receive Lodge. Amazing offense at the perfect time by Zimmer.
That's right, just pushing that duo of shock exchange defenders out to the outside. That gets Lodge through for 5 points.
A lot of times it really doesn't need to be like the brute force of the hit, but just the strategic timing and subtle nudging of just getting in the biggest threat's way, and that's exactly what Zimmer did on that pass.
Lodge getting recycled back behind shock exchange on the far straightaway. They're building a pretty good back wall there. Oh, and a Kembo Slice, part of the defense there. Getting speed up for themselves, getting hit, bumped out to the outside by Slamilton. Slamilton taking himself out of play.
Slamilton kind of delivering a little bit of Kembo Slice's own medicine. Like, oh, you want to go in the Wayback Machine? All right, I'll give you a ride in the Wayback Machine.
You want to go backwards? I'll send you backwards.
Why, yeah, you oughta. Zimmer, last line defense, has to shrug it off and let Kembo Slice go. But that was just the initial pass. No points picked up by Shock Exchange.
3 points picked up by Vancouver Murder. Now they finally break the century mark. 102 points to the Shock Exchange's 133. 6.5 minutes left on the game clock.
Impressively low-scoring game.
This is ridiculous. This is one of the lowest scoring games that I've seen, especially with the point spread, at 30 points. Wow.
Exactly. I mean, there have been very few bleed outs at all. Even with the power jams, it's more that they've taken a lot of turns with the power jams. The power jams don't last the full 30 seconds, or the defense have just been so sturdy and strong and focused in those power jams. There have been no runaways.
Want to say thanks to Laughing Planet, a locally sourced bowl, salads, burritos, and more in their 2 Eugene locations. I'm just in it for the burritos. I just keep seeing burritos, and I want burritos. They are a proud Derby supporter, so check them out if you are here in Eugene.
They're also in Portland.
Oh, they are?
Just a heads up. And yes, so next time you're in town there also, if you're listening at home from beautiful, hopefully sunny Portland, Oregon today, there are many locations in Portland. I got to tell you something. I'm also, aside from having an honorary PhD in pizzaology, I am also a cookie aficionado, and Laughing Planet has some of the best cookies I've ever had. They're like fresh-baked oatmeal, sans raisins, chocolate chips. Oh, my God, they're so good. Get some.
Oatmeal cookies without raisins, that is becoming relevant to my interest. Back to the game. We have Zimmer versus Pablex.
Pablex taking some turns as a jammer, having fun in the process. Again, a very slender Shock Exchange, and now a power jam for Shock Exchange. Jammer Zimmer in the penalty box for Vancouver.
This is the 9th jammer penalty that the Murder has accrued in this game. Shock Exchange going all offense, trying to get Pablex through. They hang back, forcing Murder to bridge out. That gets Pablex through for a scoring pass.
Shock Exchange have been really impressive all weekend in not wasting time in applying offense. So, when you only have 2 people on the track, there's only so much you can do. I have to imagine it just pains them to watch their jammer go it alone.
Well, and also notice that they try to keep moving. It's that forward momentum that helps get the jammer through. You take away jammer speed, it's easier to control them and deny them any points. And so that seems to be one of the strategies that Shock Exchange uses. Instead of the grind, they're just trying to keep things moving.
Keep it moving, keep it rolling, just as we are doing in jam number 36. We have Carla Foot jamming for New York Shock Exchange, going up against Zimmer.
Zimmer in the back. Oh, barely staying in bounds, going under number 35, B Shirts, and then gets flattened by 125. That is Malcolm Sex. And Malcolm Sex going to the penalty box for that.
Zimmer attempting a self-assist on that inside line off of Payne Threatsky, but the line was being covered too firmly, had to drop all the way to the back and do it again.
LeFou threw for 5 points for the Shock Exchange. Zimmer still trying to find daylight.
Zimmer and Walker doing a little bit of do-si-doing, and that was a very subtle star pass. Walker now the recipient of that jammer cap.
Very sneaky. And again, Walker sitting on 6 penalties, so a little risky to put Walker out there as the pivot or a jammer.
That is true, but here's where I will give Walker the credit. He had 4 penalties coming out of the first half. He's also been on the track so often that it's kind of the law of odds, I would imagine, and because he is important, has been having an impact. But at this moment, I mean, there are 3.5 minutes left of the game. What are you saying?
3.5 minutes left of the jam. That's the longest jam ever.
Some of these jams, especially the pointless ones, have felt that way. That's for sure.
102 for Vancouver, 144 for Shock Exchange. Everyone going in clockwise direction as Lodge and Sammy Dangerfield are brought all the way back to turn 3.
Sammy Dangerfield, a very colorful jammer, both in skating style, attitude, aptitude. It's going to be really fun to see as we get into these dying moments of this game what these jammers have in store for us. Neither of them have made their way into turn 1. It is Sammy Dangerfield, lead jammer, and an out of play against Bennett.
Bennett taking a seat in the penalty box for the murder that depletes the pack by 1. They set up a tripod in front by the jammer line, and we see at number 9 Kembo Slice sitting in the penalty box. Lodge getting through on the initial pass for the murder.
Zimmer forcing Sammy Dangerfield out, calling that jam off.
Waiting for the points update. 3 points scored by the... 4 points. 3 points. 4 points. 4 points scored by the Shock Exchange. 148 for them total. 102 for Vancouver. Just under 2 minutes left on the game clock.
Huge second half of the second half for Shock Exchange. Carl LeFou wearing the star, going up against Mr. Testosterone. Again, some of the biggest point scorers. And again, Carl LeFou trying to entice. It's deja vu all over again, Mr. Testosterone. But now the blockers are wise to the game. Low block being called against Zimmer. Mr. Testosterone, about a half track length ahead after all of that goofy backwards business.
Now, because of that goofy backwards business, that was just the initial pass for Mr. Testosterone. He does get lead. Carl LeFou following out. Now, Carl LeFou is very confident. Look at the confidence that LeFou has right now.
Well, LeFou's just got to look at the scoreboard, and I think that he can rest his laurels and his confidence upon that very healthy lead that the Shock Exchange has found themselves with. But I mean, it's not an observation. Well, it's an informed observation. The several times that LeFou tried to entice that kind of backwards, it never worked for him. Both times it was against Mr. Testosterone, and both times Mr. Testosterone ended up with lead jammer. So just something to consider.
But again, that confidence this second time comes from A, the score, B, the clock.
Real. Both definitely in the favor of LeFou and the Shock Exchange.
We have another timeout, an official timeout, being called. 19 seconds left on the period clock.
Already?
Yeah.
They might not feel that way, but I feel that way. And the people at home may not feel that way, but we could just keep going. We'll be here for the rest of the day.
We'll be here all night. Be sure to tip your waitress. The Eugene Cascades and Coast Sports Commission is proud to sponsor the 2017 Big O Roller Derby Tournament. Thank you very much.
I'm having a feeling that timeout was taking a look at the penalties. Walker is sitting at the 7th penalty, should be in the penalty box, but in his place, we have Nelson serving the duration of that penalty. So, indeed, Walker has fouled out of this game. A slow motion delivery from Scott Slamilton to I Am Havoc on the inside line.
Slamilton coming through backwards. Now, when Slamilton was trying this against Bridgetown, he was getting penalties for it, but he manages to stay in bounds this time. He does get lead. Period clock has expired. This will be the last jam. Slamilton coming around for a scoring pass, trying to stay low and stay unnoticed, but he gets noticed.
I Don't Care Bear fighting his way around a bear hug from Vancouver and establishing himself firmly in the middle of a wall that is just brutalizing Scott Slamilton.
I Am Havoc getting one last smack from stand to side as he comes through for a scoring pass.
Scott Slamilton pushing Nelson through that wall, letting him do the heavy lifting, but this jam is called off. 2 points put up by Vancouver, 4 points picked up by the New York Shock Exchange. We have an unofficial final score of the Shock Exchange, 152 to Vancouver Murder, 108. And that
is an upset, friends and neighbors.
That is a decisive upset, friends and neighbors, to all north and south of the border. The 8th place team, New York Shock Exchange, upsetting 6th place Vancouver. Wow, and that is the final. 152 to 108.
That was a heck of a game. A nice controlled game by Shock Exchange. They once they figured out how the murder worked, they worked them. Like, they really figured out what they needed to do to score all of the points and
win all of the games.
And it also shows in the penalty count, too, because it looks like the murder got a little more penalties than the Shock Exchange. It's hard. Can't count them up right now because I don't have enough fingers and toes.
Exactly.
But still, just an amazing game. 3 lead changes, an upset at the end, a great way to end the regular sanctioned games on track 1 here for the 2017 Big O tournament. We are going to be taking a break until 6:30 when we have the Juniors Expo game.
Oh, that's going to be great. The future of roller derby is in the building.
Absolutely. So tune back in at that time, and that is going to be followed by the 2 MVP games. The men's MVP game at 8, and the women's at 8:40. So please stay tuned. The action has not stopped here at the Big O. I am Tara Armoff.
I'm Layla Smackdown.
And we're taking a break.